Hey, everybody, off the top rope here, off the Mike Sports Network. Okay. Didn't think I'd be coming on here to have collision takes. Um, Again, I don't watch the show. I just see stuff that goes on social. And something caught my eye, and it took me back to Wednesday night. Rhino returned in Detroit, which, Rhino's a legend. Rhino's been around the block. He's done a lot of great things in his career. It just felt kind of weird that he was brought in because he had a tie to Christian, and then he lost in 3-4 minutes to Nick Wayne, and Nick Wayne's about to leave and go to the Best of the Super Junior tournament in Japan, and he's going to be gone for like a month. So I didn't see the point in that. Like, it was a kind of a cheap pop in Detroit. I didn't think much of it. So then we get to Thursday night in Collision. They air it, they're doing it, and then they have this weird schedule because of, the playoffs positioning and all this other stuff. They did it on Thursday night from Detroit, same building as the night before. And Ricochet has a match against, I think it was Angelico. And it was just kind of random. I was like, okay, Ricochet's been teaming with the Young Bucks. What the hell does he need a match here? So apparently during this match, let's check out this for a blast from the past from you people who were watching during the Ruthless Aggression era. Zach Gowen was sitting in the front row. Remember Zach Gowen, one leg Zach Gowen, who pinned the Big Show to get a WWE contract and then was abused by Vince McMahon, was absolutely almost murdered on live television by Brock Lesnar, getting thrown down a flight of stairs, getting smacked over the head with a steel chair while his mother watched. Yes, that's Zach Gowen, who is still around. I've heard some rumors that he's not the greatest person to work with. So this was weird. So Zach Gowen's in the front row watching this match. Ricochet wins. Zach Gowen is not happy with how this goes. Zach Gowen goes in to try and break up Ricochet's post-match attack. And then Ricochet beats up Zach Gowen and then takes his prosthetic leg. He's a paraplegic, and he takes his prosthetic leg. Okay, so let's talk about that moment for a second. You're trying to use, listen, I understand that Montez Ford used somebody's prosthetic leg as a weapon during a TLC match, which was completely a spontaneous moment. For this to be planned in 2025 just feels really out of place, in my opinion. That's just me. Needing that to get yourself heat, especially considering earlier in the day, Ricochet got cooked by a 21-year-old. No matter who you defend or what company you defend, Ricochet got cooked by Jamon Evans. And you can go watch that video because that's another. But to use this to get heat on Ricochet when he's involved with the Young Bucks, he's seemingly on this great trajectory as a heel. Why do you need to do that? And also, I'm not trying to disrespect Zach Gowen, but maybe I will be a little bit disrespectful. If it is, I'm sorry. But let's call it what it is. I haven't even given a shit. Nobody's given a shit about Zach Gowen in 20 years. 2003 is when that happened. He was posing as a Mr. America fan. You remember who Mr. America was? That was Hulk Hogan under a mask. You remember that? Man, those were the dark days of the Ruthless Aggression era, everybody, man. Oh my God. So Zach Gowen gets television time, and get this. And I understand he's from Detroit. That's where he's from. Cool. Okay. He had a nice little run in wrestling, a nice little run in independent wrestling, but nobody's really cared about him on a mainstream level in 20 years. But then get this. Off of that situation, Ricochet actually, used the prosthetic leg to fake walk to the back, and he stole it. And it's kind of like, even in kayfabe, it's kind of gross and kind of disgusting. It's not the right kind of heat at this stage, especially in the society that we're in. I just don't like it. But get this, off of that, mind you, we are going into Dynamite. We'll be 10 days out from Double or Nothing. And I'm assuming Ricochet is going to be maybe he'll be involved in something. But you mean to tell me Ricochet is going to face Zach Gowen on Dynamite next week? Beach break. That's happening. That has been announced. It came out of Tony Khan's Twitter account. It's on AEW social media. They have announced the match that Ricochet is facing Zach Gowen in a match. That's not good. This company is so stuck in the past. Look, Rhino comes back for a 3-minute cheap pop and gets beaten by Nick Wayne. And what does that do? That doesn't do anything for him. He beat somebody from his past. Why don't you have him beat some guys in your own company and put him over? Or actually try to make him seem like a credible threat. Beating somebody who's not going to be there, that doesn't do shit. And then you're resorting to these cheap tactics with Ricochet, where you're stealing a guy's prosthetic leg when nobody likes him to begin with. So you're doing this, which is just kind of, to me, a little bit over the line in terms of getting heat. Like, there are better ways to do that in 2025 where you don't have to resort to, a guy who's a paraplegic. You don't have to take his freaking leg. And some people will come in and go, well, Montez Ford used a paraplegic's leg from a fan in the front. Guys, he was handed that by a fan. And also, he didn't have to do it, but it was completely spontaneous in the moment. And you know what? Maybe it was not in great taste, but still, this was a planned spot. This was planned. That wasn't. So that argument's out the window. And they just keep bringing in these legends who don't give a flying fuck about this company. Rhino was there. Hey, we're in Detroit. Cool. Rhino's up there in age. He looked all right for what he was, but it's like, what does that do for Nick Wayne? What does that do for him? And what does this do for Ricochet? It does nothing. Ricochet's the exact same heel. We already don't like him, whether on the internet or on screen. We don't like Ricochet. That's been established. Okay. So doing this angle and doing that, the Rhino stuff, they're so stuck in the past. Like, look even at their roster. Look even at their roster right now. Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin are the tag team champs. And even as admittedly as entertaining as they are, both those guys are in their late 40s. Toni Storm, granted, is one of the more original things, so she's kind of like the thing. Jon Moxley is your world champion. The guy who was the mainstay that started 6 years ago in the worst gimmick he's ever done, and he shouldn't be the world champion right now. He's got that because you wanted to send Bryan Danielson out as a champion, which Bryan Danielson probably didn't want to do, and Tony Khan's even said that. Mercedes Moné is the TBS champion. She is not even close. Like, from an in-ring perspective, she is still great, but she's not even close to this presented as the star that she was in WWE as Sasha Banks. And you can keep going on and on and on to, like, Adam Copeland gets significant TV time. We're so stuck in the past. This company used to be about the future. It used to be about the future and building stars. And I know some people will say, well, Nick Wayne's a future star. Well, Ricochet's a future star. Yeah, but you're not going to build them up by using people that haven't been relevant in a really long time. Zach Gowen was not even remotely on my bingo card of showing up on a major pro wrestling show. Because, like I said, he has not been anywhere near mainstream wrestling television in 20 years. 20 years. I remember when it happened because I was like, holy shit, we got a one-legged, like, I was like 14, 15 years old. I was a teenager watching. I was like, holy shit, this guy's really good. He could do a moonsault on one leg. That's really awesome. Here I am at 35 years old and I'm seeing this. I was like, I didn't expect to see that, nor did I want to see that. So if this is for you, God bless you. But the sickos here who keep trying to justify this is not the AEW. And this is one of the main things that frustrates me about this place. This is not the AEW that I was brought into in 2019. This is not the same place. It was about building stars. And, like, I understand Darby Allin's not there. Jack Perry's is a jackass. MJF, I think he's kind of coasting. Sammy Guevara has been too much of a problem. So, like, their stars that they could have built aren't there. Britt Baker, say what you want about her. She was one of the mainstays. All of the main people, really, a lot of the main people that started out with this place are not being featured anymore, or are not being elevated, or not even being put on television. It's really, and then you see spots in shows going to Zach Gowen and Rhino in 2025. What am I watching? SmackDown in 2003? What the fuck are we doing? Tony, get control of your company, man. Like, it's almost like he is just dipping back into the past. And it's not even the good part of the past. 2003, like, yeah, there were some good parts of Ruthless Aggression, but there were some dark times in 2003. There was some weird shit going on. And we don't need to bring back that time. Be your own show, develop your own talent, put them over, and don't have legends. Yes, admittedly, I understand why it was because it was in Detroit, but still, you don't need to do that type of shit. Also, separate note, my dear friend Lane Weiss, who I love dearly. She's my sister's best friend. She's a dear friend to us. She's from Detroit. She's been in on wrestling. She brought this up to me. Why not have the Pistons? They had a whole bit with the Pistons. Harley Cameron was wearing a Pistons jersey. Why not have Cade Cunningham? I understand the Pistons just lost. Why not have Cade Cunningham or Malik Beasley or some of these other guys show up? That would have I'm not saying that they need to get involved. Like, what was one of the coolest and I've seen this meme go around a lot. And for those who are sports fans, I hope this doesn't happen because it means that the Cleveland Cavaliers, my team, is eliminated from the NBA playoffs. But one thing that's been going around from last year at Madison Square Garden over the summer was Tyrese Halliburton and Jalen Brunson actually had a confrontation in a wrestling ring. It didn't lead to anything, but Tyrese Halliburton was playing the heel, aligning with Logan Paul, and Jalen Brunson was aligning with LA Knight. And we loved that because that was a great piece of business. I remember a few years back, Trey Young came into the building as a heel after him and the Hawks had beaten and knocked the Knicks out. So it's like, why not do something like that? Why not do something like that? Not bring in has-been wrestlers who haven't been relevant in a long time. And don't get me wrong, I love Rhino, and I thought Zach Gowen was cool 20 years ago. That doesn't mean they need to be on television in 2025. So what a waste of time. And based off the match card that I saw, none of the matches on Collision did anything remotely close to getting you excited for Double or Nothing. They still have only 2 announced matches. And yet we're still focused on giving, people who aren't even contracted by the company spots on meaningful television time in 2025. It's just, I don't get it. I do not get it. Tony, get control of your fucking company, dude. Seriously. I know it may have been a little bit over the line by Javon Evans to call you a crackhead, but when you make decisions like this, it's hard to dismiss it because it's like, what the fuck? What are you smoking, man? Like, what are you doing when you're resorting to this and resorting to angles like this and using people like this who aren't involved in wrestling and haven't been relevant in a long time? Get control of it, Tony. Seriously, you got a pay-per-view in 2 weeks. Be better. Come on. I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.